Welcome to the evolution of a beautiful dream, where one thing has led to another across a long period of time. In my 90-minute presentation of this unique structure on Saturday, the 27th of September, I'll be telling you how this installation piece evolved from a series of 2D sacred geometrical photo collage art pictures that you see here behind me into its next iteration in model form. But it doesn't stop there, because this is also a conscious working device. Come on this journey with me to discover what this means. This unique installation that I've named the Magician's Jewel due to its correlation with the Philosopher's Stone, that of mystics and alchemists throughout the ages, is also containing a number of other very deep and very interesting subjects that I invite you to discover with me. And then in my workshop on Monday, the 29th of September, I'll be inviting you to join me for an actual virtual expedition through the stunning 3D design of this structure, when we'll enter its inner chambers, climb up its 13-layer spiral to discover how it's been built with ancient knowledge of sacred design, harmonized by the modern tradition of biogeometry, and held together by the extraordinary description of the process of existence according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead that this structure describes in its entirety. This is one of the most sacred texts of the entire Tibetan Buddhist canon. I shall be honored to host you on this adventure.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome. Welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. My name is Dr. Enolia, and I am thrilled to introduce Susan Griffith-Jones. This is not the first time that we've had the pleasure of her company, but just to give you a little reminder of who Susan is, she is a British-born, creative, innovative artist who has dedicated her life to traveling the ancient inner paths of the yogis, investigating the nature of existence from many angles, and communicating the like. Organizing the findings of her explorations into innovative, symbolic representations, artistic documentaries whose timelines are built upon the sacred patterns embedded into them. They are also displayed within her large photo collage art and art installation pieces. Susan explains their meaning in her books and articles, as well as talking about them publicly at conferences, workshops, and relevant functions. Susan is currently combining together all 9 photo collage art pieces into installations that she made during the last 20 years as the individual parts of a larger installation that she's named the Magician's Jewel, whose shape and appearance represent universal truth in symbol, a working device that's designed through its connection to both the electromagnetic grid of the earth and its more subtle aspect in the space to revitalize the land and people in its environs. So her website's pyramidkey.com, and let's bring on Susan. Susan, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon, Enolia. I'm doing fine. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show.
And this isn't the first time that you've been on the show, and I love having you back because the progressions of your work have been phenomenal. And as you embark on those progressions, I'm thrilled to be the one to talk to you about them. So let's start off with the foundation of your work, because the foundation of your work has gone through many iterations. And that's what we're here to talk about, is all the different iterations to date, where you're going with them. So let's start off with the foundation of your work.
I think if I'm going to put it metaphysically, the foundation is the process of my consciousness awakening to its truth and reality. That sounds very open-ended, like a very open-ended conversation, but it's really that as I have tuned myself and aligned myself to the path, and I say the path in inverted commas, because of course, in this world, we have multiple paths and multiple methods that can lead us to our conscious awakening and ultimately to what, at least in this part of the world where I live in the Indian Himalayas, term as enlightenment or nirvana, then there's a real process of refining one's consciousness in order to get in that state. And I'm not pretending by any means that I am there yet, but I am walking the path. And as I walk this path and as I refine my consciousness, I would say that doorways open to me within the phenomenal world, within this world of form, that allow me to bring in more intricate and perhaps you could say more divinely intuited manifestations. So I know that's probably not the answer you were imagining
No, that's
getting from
beautiful
me.
answer. Absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful answer. And actually, your work is indicative of that answer. If you had answered any other way, it wouldn't have been a proper representation of what you're about to bring to fruition because what you're doing is mind blowing. Okay, what you are bringing together is mind blowing, and the encompassing of the various technologies and understandings that you had to bring together into this is just it's a piece of art. It's just phenomenal. So let's unveil it absolutely the way that you would
I was
choose.
going to say, let's bring this conversation back down to earth and let's go through some of the processes, or let's look at some of the processes that I had to go through in order to get to where I am today.
Yes.
And I still haven't got to the end of the road yet. I'm in process.
That's okay. That's okay.
But since my last couple of podcasts with you, where I was describing the next step in my in the another iteration of the magician's jewel, let's call it, I have come on in a number of ways because whereas before we were describing, I was describing to you how let's go back to the foundation, how I had by very miraculous fortune met one of the most accomplished Tibetan Buddhist masters that has walked this planet and managed to spend 6 years very close to him before he passed away in 2007. He was the one who instilled in me something unnameable, which has opened into all of this. And it really started with two words, which was take photographs. So I had been planning to go on a journey to Tibet, and by hook or by crook, he managed to sway me from going on this journey to Tibet, instead to go on a journey to the high Himalayas in Nepal, near the border with Tibet. I mean, that story is beautiful in itself, but I want to get more, I want to get to the point here. So having gone on this journey to, in fact, having just embarking on this journey into the high Himalayas, which he himself had told me, go to this place and do your retreat there. I was just leaving the room and his attendant called out to me, Susan, Rinpoche's, wait a minute, Rinpoche's got something to tell you. He says, take photographs. And quite by chance, I had been given a camera, an old 1960s Pentax. I mean, now we're 2005, so this was an old camera already, and the light meter didn't work. And I'm no photographer. I don't know how to arrange a shutter speed and aperture frame without like sort of having to take a long time to decide, okay, it's shadow, I need to make it like this, and shutter speed like that. So I had a little lesson with some photographer friend of mine who told me how to use this shutter speed and aperture. And so I went off on this journey into the high Himalaya. I was doing my retreat as I was going around the valleys. I was doing my retreat out in the open air. I would stop for 3 hours here, I'd stop for 3 hours there, and I was doing 4 sessions a day of 3 hours of these intricate sadhanas. Sadhana means like a series of exercises that one has to go through. It takes about 3 hours to do it. And I was sitting there on the sides of mountains, in temples, wherever I came upon them, upon rocks, here and there and here and there. And all the time I was taking photographs, and I got through 24 36 millimeter reels of photographs in this old 1960s Pentax, whose light meter didn't work. Now, very, very interestingly, I've just come across a book, like now, in this time, that talks about back in the 1950s taking photographs or attempting to take photographs of UFOs, pointing a camera whose light meter doesn't work or has no light meter. If it's got a light meter, then it's not going to give you the correct aperture or shutter speed in order to capture a different layer of reality. Because, say, for example, the UFOs we're not seeing with our physical, in our physical realm, yeah, and um all these other entities, I wanted to say creatures, but entities that exist outside of our sensory framework. So in the infrared or in the ultraviolet range of the color band. And that's what happened to me on this trip to Muktinat. I was pointing my camera at rocks and mountains and temples and people and horses and sheep and goats and whatever else, landscapes. But because my shutter speed and my aperture were wrong because of my non-professionalism in the art of photography, I was capturing the realm of light. And I ended up with photographs of rainbows pouring into valleys over temples and halos of light of this and this and this. So when I published all these photographs, when I came back to Kathmandu, I was like, wow, some of these are extraordinary in the real sense of the word, extraordinary.
Yes, yes.
So I wanted to do something. I mean, had they been just ordinary, I might have just shoved them in a drawer. But there was a whole pile of them, and some of them were really special. And I decided I'm going to do something with them. So that's how I started making photo collage art. I sort of played around with these photos, made little designs, geometrical patterns on the floor. Then I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. But then I need something to hold the photograph. So then I went to a local wood merchant's. I got some plyboard and I put them on along the plyboard. And then I thought, oh, we can make shapes out of this plyboard. And then, oh, the plyboard doesn't look very pretty. Let's put some cloth on it. And hence was born the process and the art of photo collage art. Number one, number two came very quickly, and then I did an exhibition in Kathmandu. I thought, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. I should do a big exhibition somewhere like, I don't know, New York, London, Paris, Milan, whatever. Now I'm dreaming. But first I should practice. I'll do a little exhibition in Kathmandu. So I pulled off this exhibition quite quickly in a little cafe, which was had a gallery as well, a gallery cafe in the center of Kathmandu. It was a beautiful occasion. And all my friends and people I knew came along, and I advertised it. And we had about 70, 80 people at the opening, and it was beautiful. Anyway, so that was really my introduction to photo collage art, or making photo collage art. I thought after that, I wasn't sure that this was going to continue, but then it did. And when we came to live in India, I made another one. And then I made another, then I made another, and then I made another. But it wasn't like every month or every 2 months. It's like one of them would take a year. And I would
Yes.
slowly, it was not just like I'm going to make a picture, take the photographs, make the picture. It was a process, and is a process of my actual life path. I did not intend any of this to happen. This was not like, oh, I am going to make this in the end, and in order to make that, I have to create these photo images. Not
Right.
at all. This was just literally doing what happens. And this has been the process of my life. The manifestation up to this very point today has been a process of just doing what happens, following the road. I'm not searching, I'm not looking for, I'm not
Right.
uh, throwing my focus onto something and saying, I gotta make it happen, I gotta make it happen. None of that kind of thing. I am just going along day by day. I get a phone call, an invitation to this, I go. Then something might happen there or not. And then
Right.
invited to
Right.
show my thing there and this and this. And, I meet people along the way and I get invitations along the way. And I just follow, 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 follow. And somehow all of this happened because of the process of following just day by day things.
So, Susan, let me just interrupt you just for a moment and share that if people want to see the detailed and understanding of your photo collage artwork, they can go on your website, pyramidkey.com. But also, our first episode goes into detail and shows pictures of that photo collage artwork. And our second one actually shows the progression from the photo collage artwork to what you're about to describe for the next progression. So if you want to see the detail and diagrams, or not diagrams, but your actual works, we actually embedded that in the episode. So thank you for sharing that foundation for us to get started with. So I go ahead, please continue.
Well, at least we've had two kinds of foundation ideas of the foundation now. So we've had a
Yeah,
sort of metaphysical one and we've had a more practical one, even
yeah,
though the practical one is also a bit metaphysical, as it.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the photo collage art pictures can be seen at my website, pyramidkey.com, and underneath the section photography. And then there's a section inside that called photo collage art. So yeah, that's where you can find them. But it was in 2020, in fact, when I had been invited to take part in an exhibition in London, an art exhibition of, well, it wasn't an art exhibition, but it was more like um, a very innovative and advanced in the sense that we were going to be exposing some of the Tibetan Buddhist tantric methods through technological methods. So we would have halls of mirrors and we would have holographic displays of deities and things like this, is what I mean. And the V&A Museum in London had accepted our proposal, and the exhibition was on for 2024, 2025. And then, of course, we all know what happened in 2020, and everything was shut down in March 2020. And then the exhibition was going to be put back 1 year, whatever, 2 years, however long the whole process of lockdown was going to take, because all those exhibitions had to be shoved ahead in time.
Right, right.
And then that was not the problem. The main thing that happened to our exhibition at the V&A was that the kingpin of our exhibition was the curator, who was actually employed by the V&A and was the South Asian department head. And suddenly he died, like
Mm,
this. Within a couple of months, he died. And that was a problem for the exhibition because he was the one that they trusted to get the exhibition done.
right.
And so the fellow that I was working with, who was another curator but not employed by the V&A per se, he said that we were going to have to now completely redesign the entire exhibition. So he asked me, he said, look, give me a proposal as per your Tibetan Book of the Dead project and for your photo collage art pictures, two separate Word documents, and we'll incorporate these two aspects somehow into a bigger exhibition or a bigger project report for an exhibition. So he gave me a deadline. He said, give me by January the something 2021. So I started working on this, and I had two Word documents going on my computer, and one was my photo collage art pictures, and I had like decided they were going to be hanging in the space, holographic, people could go inside them, look and da 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 da. And the other one was the Tibetan Book of the Dead project, and that I had already made a kind of I designed an installation which was more like, as I said, like a hall of mirrors kind of thing for the
Right.
exhibition, which was now defunct because of the death of the curator. And so I was working on this, I was working on this, two documents, and then suddenly one paragraph from this document wanted to jump into this, and one paragraph from this wanted to come into this. And then I was like, how can I separate these two things? They're coming together, coming together. And then it came to me. They merged. These two Word documents merged, and in merging was born The Magician's Jewel.
Mm.
It just takes 2 seconds for a download to happen. I mean, it's like a file, boom,
Yes.
lands in your
Yes.
brain. And you open that file and then you start to put it into manifest reality as words, as pictures. I mean, I was on a roller after that. I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and 49 pages later, ironically, because the Tibetan Book of the Dead describes the process between death and rebirth as 49 days, and I wrote 40
Yes.
pages, not contrived in any way. I did it just like that, and was born The Magician's Jewel. I had that aha moment when I realized that all the photo collage art pictures were components of this machine.
Yes.
Then it was just ABC putting it together, bit by bit by bit. There was a lot of stuff in there where I didn't have the technical know-how yet, but somehow I
Uh,
wrote it down anyway, like the crystals are going to carry the energy, and then this is going to happen, and that is going to happen. And then somehow it's going to convert it into a form that's going to clean up the subtle energy of the thing. I mean, in my heart, I knew it was possible, but in actual technical reality, I hadn't yet learned all the steps as to how that would happen.
right.
So, so you see, I would have to go through a lot of research. I would have to go through a lot of meeting experts between 2020 and now.
Uh-huh.
And this is what I've been doing in the last 5 years. I've been going around and meeting people of all sorts of technical expertise and getting their advice, showing them what I've got, and saying, how do you think that this kind of application may be possible in this machine stroke installation? You see, because all the components of the magician's jewel are made from geometry, from
Yep.
sacred geometry. You see, we've already got some sort of power embedded into it by virtue of the sacred geometrical aspects. But it doesn't stop there,
Hmm.
because I could also pin these sacred geometrical designs into technological formations. I mean, they actually worked to represent different types of technology,
Hmm.
which was not how I designed the pictures per se, but how they actually turned out is what I want to say.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of it was I don't want to use the word haphazard, but it happened in a way that it was completely unexpected. And when I was writing this project report, for example, I would suddenly I mean, there were moments of euphoria, one after the other, as the realizations poured down into the pages. And as I pulled um, ideas both from my photo collage art pictures, and at the same time as I was writing this project report, I hired a graphic designer who lives locally to me to put what I was talking about into 3D representation. And that's where I got the greater picture, because I could now see my photo collage art pictures not only on a flat surface, but as 3D form. And then I could see how they fitted into this installation. But not only that, I worked with the Bardo Tudor, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I wrote the process that is described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead as a passageway through this installation. And nothing was contrived. It just came together like this. I was really not having to scratch my brain for information or find it. Just happened. It happened so easily and so perfectly, even though I myself didn't have the technical expertise at that time. And I'm not pretending I do now, although I'm a little bit better equipped to
Oh, I'm going to pause you right there
answer
because
questions.
your little bit is not little bit. And I'm going to name all of the elements listed that you had to grasp in terms of topics of understanding and comprehension in order
There are
for
a lot.
what you're about to share with us and what took place. So it includes Plato's 5 element shapes. It includes universal harmonics, light and laser optics and mirrors, sound acoustics, the use of binaural headphones, lucid dreaming, magnetism, crystals, electricity, standing columnar waves, solitron grid, Hertzian to longitudinal wave shifting, implosion physics, piezoelectricity, vortices, metals, park layout and design movement, Hopi dance, medicine wheel, human movement, augmented and virtual reality, cinematographic development, EEG helmet, headband, neuroscience and intervention of human consciousness, and more. And let me tell you something, in working and following you with this, your grasp of the physics that this is the foundation behind, and the engineering and all of the various topics that I just laid out, you have to truly understand it. There isn't an aspect where the T isn't crossed and the I isn't dotted in terms of it grasping a technology and an innovation that brings it all together collectively. And so I don't want people to undermine the work that you did. They need to know the work that you did and what's behind this magician's jewel. And you're saying creative, innovative artists, but the grasp of the various topics, even as a generalist, is huge. Is huge. So thank you.
Okay. So I'll qualify that. What you are saying is true in some respects, because I was actually forced into a situation that made me have to learn a lot of these topics. So back in 2016, I was at a conference in South India where I met Dr. Samuel Managic, who discovered the Bosnian pyramids. And this is a whole nother topic. But having had a breakfast meeting with him, and at that time Patriji, who was still alive, he was the sort of head guru of this ashram in South India. And this conference was going on. And two things happened at that breakfast. An Australian fellow had failed to get into India for some reason. His visa had been rejected at the gate. And I was just attending. I was not planning to talk. And at that breakfast, after listening to the discussion, Patriji had asked me, he said, "Susan, you're on stage in half an hour. Go get your stuff on the..." And I'm like, "I came here purposefully only as an attendee." He said, "Well, things have changed. Get on stage." I was like just wanting to enjoy a conference for once, not be a speaker. But anyhow, so I had been describing how I'd made another film in Nepal about the Tibetan lamas. And Dr. Samuel Managic had left the table and had come back an hour later, having looked up this film on my website and watched it. We were still chatting at the table. He came back and he said, Susan, I want you to come to Bosnia and make me a film like that in Bosnia on the pyramids. And we're like, okay, when do I come? He said, come to the next summer solstice conference in June next year. So I did. And oh my goodness, was I thrown into a completely another world with people who were talking about the weirdest and most wonderful topics of technological advancement. I mean, then I realized that behind the Iron Curtain, that of course fell in the 80s, unlike in Western Europe, where I was brought up, where academia had kept a very strict parameters on what you could say and what you could do and what you could study and what you could research. You wouldn't get a, research grant for some of the weird and wonderful things that have been happening, in Eastern Europe and in Russia.
Right.
I was meeting these people who had these amazing machines that did the most incredible things that, you would have thought, how can even this be possible? And yet it was possible. And they had kept on researching this kind of technology. I mean, really avant-garde and beyond anything that I'd ever heard of before. I had to literally change the parameters of how I saw reality in order to grasp what the Bosnian pyramids mean and what may be even happening there. So I had to go through a paradigm shift, and that really, really helped me to come online into these more advanced technologies that otherwise I would have never thought that they were even possible. And the other thing that happened to me was my study of biogeometry, which has been a very, very important part of my training, actually. And again, I was slightly forced into that. Um, a friend of mine who was a biogeometry practitioner had really pushed me into doing it. And I was reluctant at first because, like, oh, I can't take on anything else. But then once I was in it, I was like, this is absolutely amazing. So, biogeometry is a modern day practical training in ancient Egyptian pyramid techniques, not just pyramid
Yeah.
techniques, but temple, the ancient Egyptian temple arts, which was not a theoretical study, but was very much an experiential process. So people would enter the temples and through their own research in their own understanding of reality, they would be trained in a spiritual path. But not by the book, very, very much an experimental path. And it was Dr. Ibrahim Karim who had earlier in the last 40, 45, 50 years, he's now in his 80s, he has created this incredible modern day path which allows us to reconstruct these ancient temple methods. But one of the most important aspects of biogeometry is the conversion of harmful electrical waves and harmful Wi-Fi radiation that is bombarding us these days. I mean, really, we are an experiment in progress. We do not know how all this electrosmog, as he calls it, and these harmful radiation, the harmful radiation from Wi-Fi is going to affect our human bodies. But anyhow, so biogeometry has created has given us a number of different tools and instruments in order to convert and to nullify the harmful effects of these dangerous waveforms. So I realized during this process when I was uncovering so-called this magician's jewel and this large, now what is becoming 120-foot I repeat that, 120 foot means 40-meter high structure in which participants will walk on, go into chambers, will go through the process of existence according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, will discover not just the process of existence, because the process of existence is also a process of our consciousness, the process of our consciousness occurring at different levels of reality. And this is my training with the Tibetan Lamas. But the actual installation, this 120-foot machine, for want of a better word, device, art installation, however you want to look at it, I am aiming to cause it through geometrical shape, through different types of methods to bring an electrical current through it that is actually created through the movement of the people on it, which makes it a conscious installation device, because it is through the movement of humans on it that it actually creates an energetic wave that is subsequently converted into a very let's just call it beyond. It's really a source, energy of the source. It's converting it to the energy of the source, which in biogeometry they call BG3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what they call it. And in the spiritual path, you may call it source energy, or you
Right.
may call it anyway. There are lots of. It's very tricky to start naming this kind of level of energy, yeah. But just to keep it simple, in converting harmful electromagnetic waves through forcing these waves into a set of different geometrical designs and vortexes, it will subsequently change the nature of the electromagnetic wave into that source energy, which filters out into the atmosphere around it and cleans up the entire space. And don't ask me even what kind of radius it could be. I've been told it could be up to 100 miles around a
Right.
device the size of 120 feet. But that's to be
Right.
tested. We don't know. But almost certainly it could be 10 or 15 miles. So it would hopefully be able to at least clean up a cityscape. And without any harm to Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi unit will run as usual. Your electrical items will run as usual. The only thing it does is it converts the harmful compressional waves that are coming off an electromagnetic wave into a source energy that all biological creatures can bask in and get health benefits from. And I'm not just talking about humans, I'm talking about animals, insects, plants, even the entities which we cannot see, which are beyond the spectrum, as we were talking about earlier. So this is the aim. The ultimate aim is that it can clear up the space. And at the same time, it's also designed to harmonize the elements that are in the area around it. So by plugging it in, or I say plugging it in because it's actually it's got a flat surface on the bottom, but when you place it on a very specific location that has underground water crossings deep in the ground, more than 100, 150, 200 meters deep in the ground, where already a beneficial energy is spiraling up, you can amplify that energy. So bringing that energy into the magician's jewel. And I say plugging it in because actually at the base there's a mirror. So when you look into the mirror of the magician's jewel, it's a circular mirror, you will see that it goes down in the ground equally as it goes up. So it's as if it's plugging into the ground. It's not actually plugging into the ground, but in its inverted sense, it is.
Yes.
And then the length, there's about 100+ meters of, so 300 and something foot of park coming both sides of the machine. And that will go along a solitron, that will create a solitron grid. Though that means it will lie along a ley line. So on a specific sacred point and along a ley line, then I don't know how many meters, miles, kilometers this will carry. Again, this is all to be tested as it's done. There's no way to understand this until it's done. So again,
Right.
it's a step-by-step process, and I'm taking it literally step by step.
This is wonderful work, and I hope our audience enjoyed some of the pictures while you were describing and speaking about it. So as this comes to fruition, we're going to keep right back at you until you're completed. And we can talk about the birth of the magician's jewel versus the manifestations and the iterations. And it's exciting because in a world of really seemingly chaotic energy right now, okay, this is so welcomed and so needed. So much so. I know that we're coming up on an hour. What would you like to leave our audience with?
I would like to say that I have not created this, but as I have just walked the path of my life, it has happened to me. And I am not searching money. I am not searching fame. I am not searching even to build such a structure as the magician's jewel. But I trust in the path that is coming through me. And I trust in this process of staying very true to day by day what happens, who comes into my realm, where I'm invited, what happens. I just stay with that and I move accordingly. And I have always done that. And it has led me to here. And I continue to do the same thing. I don't know how the magician's jewel is actually going to come into fruition in terms of finance, in terms of where it's going to be. People always ask me, where are you going to put it? I'm like, I don't know. They're like, whoa, you should know that. And I'm like, no, it hasn't come yet. At the time when I need to know where it's going to be, it will happen like that. And what about the money it's going to cost so much? I'm like, as of now, I put in my own funding for needed, traveling expenses. I'm going here and there. I am not being funded by anybody, and I'm not asking money from anybody for it. But when the time comes for the whole thing to be built, somehow it will happen. I don't ask these questions now. I don't need to know now. So really, my point here is we don't need to know all the information when something is coming into manifestation. We don't need all the information right now. We just need to keep walking the path day by day and keep focused in now. What's happening now? Oh, I have to study crystals because I need to know which crystals can amplify the energy, or I need to now study the vortexes. How does the angle of vortexes create a different kind of, and then I go into it and I study it, and then I come out the other end, sometimes scratching my head and sometimes with just the one piece of information I need for the magician's jewel. So really what I want to say is I have discovered by doing it, not even trying to do it, that just letting life happen is letting life happen without any kind of contrived or really divisive, or I should, or even putting my energy into it. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. None of this. It will if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. I have even no choice about it. And just letting, and this is where I come back to what I originally said to you. As I clean my consciousness, or my consciousness becomes more not so worried about me, myself, my egoic consciousness, but I allow the channel to be opened for other information to come through from quote unquote higher or more refined planes of being, then it becomes easier. The
Yes.
information comes quicker. I get less obstacles, and I just do the job and get on with it. But of course, it's a process of my own path is aligned to this path, and I cannot separate that. So as I refine, this becomes easier. Let's put it that way.
This is beautiful. So what this is the actual viewing of the manifestations of unconsciousness coming to fruition in a material way. And the beauty about that is that even though it's happened over a period of many, many, many years, the
20.
20 years, the fruits of this actual manifestation coming to fruition to come to the end is just it's a contribution to humanity. And I'm just very grateful for your work and the contributions that you're making. And I ask that you keep us in the loop and you keep at what you're doing. And thank you for what you bring and thank you for what you do. And for people to be able to explore your work deeper, please do share your information, how to be reached, in your website.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, it's pyramidkey.com, as in pyramid, pyramidkey.com. And then installation, under the installation section, you'll find the Magician's Jewel. And under the Photo Collage Art, you'll find the Photo Collage Art pictures and other things in general, because just said 20 years, but really there was a lot of backup to that 20 years, because in order to sit at the feet of the master and get that instruction to take photographs to make the Photo Collage Art, there's a whole backlog story that got me there in the first place. So it's probably a life thing.
Yes. Well, Susan, thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank
Mhm.
you for bringing us up to date and your contributions to mankind, just to humankind. And just like, don't stop. Do not stop. So, everyone, if you like this episode, please subscribe to us and also like us and share this information, because somebody out there is going through the same iterations where their unconscious wants to have them act consciously. And here is a beautiful story and a beautiful unfolding of what can come to fruition when you actually do. So thank you for listening and take care for now. And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care and bye bye.
Thank you.